It's Leifon here, and welcome back to another podcast episode with the official Otaku Crew. Now, funny enough, guys, something I hope to be doing going forward, that we put a little counter at the start of the episode. This is going to be more for the YouTube section, where every time one of us messes up saying Otaku Crew, we say Otaku Crew instead.
We have a TikTok at the official Taco Crew, Instagram, Twitter.
It's that counter is just going to keep going up. That's just going to be a funny thing we insert down the line. Now, all the official Otaku Crew podcast episodes can be found on Anchor.fm, Spotify, as well as YouTube at The Official Otaku Crew. And today I will be hosting our good episode number 40. And tonight I'm joined with Hammy the Fluffy and Wiseman Lee, the restless entrepreneur. I need to come up with a better description. Before we deep dive into this topic, there's just a few things I would like to mention about this, like a little background digging I did on the show. Now, everyone is very familiar, or more or less should be familiar with the Grimm Brothers, Jakob and it's not William, it's Willem, right?
Yeah, it's Wilhelm.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's it. And in real life, they were of course brothers who went on to write the Grimm fairy tales, which later got adopted into the Disney fairy tales and all that. But interestingly enough is that in this show, we have both characters, but they show a sister named Charlotte. Now, her character in and of itself is very interesting because she didn't exist in their actual history, in the actual history of the Grimm brothers. She's not mentioned anywhere, at least that I saw. Now, if someone wants to fact check me, you're welcome to. You can post it when this episode drops on whichever social media platform, saying Leifon, you're full of it.
You're wrong.
But there's a bit more to the Grimm Variation that I find interesting. The directors are of keynote. Now, since this is an anthology series, there's different directors that did a series of episodes. I don't know which director did which one, but some of them are worth mentioning because it shows, like, I guess, the experience they have under their belt. So we got Yoko Konomari. He did the Mob Psycho 100 and Ancient Magus Bride. There's 5 or 6 directors in total, but these 3 were key ones, at least that I know. Then we got Junichiro Haseguchi. He did Banana Fish, and the last one. Now, this was very surprising for me because you guys know I'm a big Ghibli fan.
Nobody cares.
This gentleman over here, he was the assistant director behind The Boy and the Heron, When Marnie Was There, and Ponyo. So we give it up to Shinataro Nakazawa. So just having these key directors, you have a feeling that this show is going to be, well, it's going to be something to be desired, especially that each episode is different than the other. And of course, I have to say that the studio that developed the Grimm Variation is Wit Studio. They actually produced the first 3 seasons of Attack on Titan, Spy X Family, Vinland Saga, and the most recent, the Suicide Squad Isekai. So if these are not enough reasons to go check it out, I don't know what else I can possibly say at this point. So, yeah.
Leifon,
Yes.
I have a correction for you.
Do it. Blast me.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Oh, Charlotte was in fact based on one of the Grimm brothers' real sisters.
Oh, okay.
I think she was their only sister.
Wikipedia lied to me. I'm looking. Don't use Wikipedia, folks. And I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, Charlotte. Okay, nope. That's what happens when you do 5-minute skim reading of Wikipedia. Be better than me, guys.
Oh,
To be fair, to my knowledge, they had a really big family, so it's not that surprising that you couldn't see that. But
True.
Yeah, they did have a sister named Charlotte among their 12 brothers or something. So
They should have just included everyone at that point, but they didn't.
I mean, I don't think the real Charlotte had bright red hair, so that's one stretch that they took with the series.
Yeah, you know how anime is. They like to give main characters oddly colored hair, and you go into a room wondering who's the main character. Gee, I wonder.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, to be fair now, every character in an anime usually has wacky hair, so.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now, Hammy, it's funny enough. We had discussed this in privately, like at one point, like we were watching the Grimm Variation, and one of the episodes, which one was it, Hansel and Gretel episode, you made a comment on the flat Earth versus non-flat Earthers, and that if you guys watch that episode, you'll understand why Hammy said it. But I would like to discuss that as an opener to the episode.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, it's been a really long time since I watched it, so I might be a little rusty, but I do recall that being like this really wacky part of it that I was just like, what the heck is going on? 'Cause,
To be fair, it was my favorite episode out of the entire series.
oh, the premise was really cool, don't get me wrong, because
Yeah.
the whole idea was rather than tempting them with only sweets, she was also tempting them with forbidden knowledge, which I think is arguably much more tempting, especially in a landscape like we live in nowadays where we all just want to know everything. But
Would you say that with the tempting the knowledge, it kind of reminded you of the Adam and Eve kind of scenario in a way?
kind of. But to be fair, that comparison can be made with any story of like temptation and forbidden knowledge.
Yeah. But this one's particular because you have the brother and sister, like the boy and the girl. Eventually,
Yeah,
later
that's
on, you
true.
figure out the twist. But yeah.
Yeah, there is some very interesting symbolism there. I see the parallels.
But
But
something that just as interesting in that, like, yeah, I agree with you. This forbidden knowledge, it just became interesting that a total stranger is the one imparting them at like forbidden knowledge, which is actual truths, versus their caretakers who had reared them since they were kids, imparting them like false knowledge. So at that point, I'm like questioning, it's like, who can you even trust? Like people who like raised you versus a total stranger. Like this, the narrative itself was very striking to a degree. Like we know how the story usually goes. They get this feed them sweets, and the witch is supposed to eat them or something.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh,
And
this episode didn't go anywhere exactly that scenario.
no,
Pretty
no.
much, I don't know, like, yeah, she was like their aide. She was helping them, and I couldn't even tell where like the breadcrumbs kind of fit into this episode too. I suppose that the candy she gave them, that was their breadcrumbs to open up the doors to inside to what we think is a spaceship, because later on we figure out they're in space and we're like, what the hell, man, what is going on here?
It was a lie
So
this whole time.
Yeah, honestly, that is one criticism I had about the series. Like, in general, I enjoyed a lot of the symbolism and the messages and the inspiration from the source material,
Mhm.
but I feel like they were trying so hard to make it like a wacky retelling that a lot of them just like threw us completely out of left field for no apparent reason.
do you think it was too much twist of a twist of a twist?
A little bit. Like, I like plot twists as much as the next person, but if it's to the point where like it doesn't really make much sense to do it, then it's just confusing.
Right, right. Well, pretty
You
much going
know?
back to my point, the whole episode, it was just a test for the kids to see who had the potential to be,
Yeah.
I don't know, the strongest, the smartest, just to, like, we don't understand what happened to the Earth. Like, looks like civilization was like wiped out due to some catastrophe, and they're like looking for new potential kids to repopulate, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah.
Damn, reminds me of
Yeah,
so
and
many
that is very
animes.
interesting. Like I can see that being a really cool premise for a
Mhm.
show or a story, don't get me wrong, but it's just why did they have to base it off of Hansel and Gretel? Why
Mm.
couldn't they just make something separate from that?
I agree. It
Like I don't
probably
understand why they
whoever
have
was
to
in
make that.
I was gonna say whoever's in charge of the episode just pretty much tried to fit so much into one episode. He just went off a tangent.
Personally,
Exactly.
I'm not sure which director did that, so we'll never know unless someone wants to go find out.
No thanks, bro.
But
Won't be me.
but leaving that, what about the very first episode of Cinderella? Honestly, I saw it coming from a mile away because I'm gonna be honest. For the longest time, and I mean for the longest time, I always talked about, hey, I hope the Grimm Fairy Tales becomes an anime. I really hope so because I can see this happening, I can see that happening, and watch. Long and behold, it happens. In the first episode of Cinderella, I'm like, she's gonna get even with everyone. She's gonna be a psycho killer, and look at that. Would you
Well,
look at
it pretty
that?
much reverses the situation of what we
Mm-hmm.
know in the Disney fairy tales, where Cinderella's a victim and
Yep.
the stepsisters are the evil instigators, I guess, in one way. But now it just flipped the
Yeah.
role where Cinderella's one is the one who's so malevolent and cunning and pulling all the strings, and then the poor stepsisters are the victims.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, she's one psycho girl for sure. I mean, she's the one that killed her own father, and I have a feeling that she had a hand in her mother's death also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing with a lot of these stories, like in the Grimm Variations. I love the stories themselves and how they're told, but I don't understand why they had to connect them to the Grimm's fairy tales. Like, if they had just made direct adaptations of the Grimm's fairy tales in, like, I would imagine, like, a cool gothic type of animation style, like Vampire Hunter D or Helsing type of vibes, I feel like that would be really cool.
Okay.
At least they didn't
But
put in a harem. At least they didn't put
yeah,
that in. Or a high school slice of life, young lad bullshit. That's the only
yeah,
thing I'm
to be
sorry
fair,
about.
you are
The
right.
typical tropes you would see.
Yeah, but it's just like I don't know, I can see these being good as standalone episodes of an anthology series or just separate shows altogether.
Yeah, I think that would have been maybe a bit more effective, like just a one-to-one adaptation and stuff. But I don't remember in the first one if we met like a fairy godmother character, did we? I don't think we
I
did.
don't think we did.
No, I don't think so
So they took the
either.
supernatural aspect out of it for that, which was weird because you sort of need the fairy godmother, but
Actually, now that you mention it, yeah, by all the episodes in the series, there was no supernatural element
aside from the Grimm
in
brothers
the.
inserting themselves into almost every episode as background characters, aside from that.
Well, the doll in Cinderella was like implied to be supernatural, but I don't
Hmm.
think that really counts.
Yeah, I thought that was like a personality disorder that she just projected onto the doll or something. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that was the vibe I got too, but like I said, the implication was there, so I don't know if you want to
I
count it or
actually
not.
thought that the doll was like her mom or something.
That's true. Maybe that could even be like the fairy godmother
Hmm.
But
or the representation
yeah, maybe.
of
But
the fairy godmother.
do you think she was real or it was just her imagination?
I personally think that it's like Leifon said that it was like a projection of her like her own I guess mental illness.
This video is sponsored by NordVPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. It's a tool that encrypts your internet traffic and hides your IP and virtual location. You might be asking yourself, why do I need this? Well, you like watching anime, right? Or shopping online? Or browsing the internet using the public Wi-Fi? But are you aware of the digital snooper? It can be anyone, such as your internet provider peeking at your internet activities, or a cyber criminal attempting to steal your credit card info, or a hacker near you trying to steal your sensitive data. This is where NordVPN comes in. It makes your internet activity private, protects you from accessing dangerous websites, and lets you enjoy your favorite anime content securely and remotely. NordVPN also allows you to overcome internet censorship. All your traffic is routed through a remote server, so you can access websites that are restricted in your country. If you want to watch anime that is only available in Japan and not in your country, then use NordVPN to connect to Japan's server. It's that easy. NordVPN is available on most devices. You can also download NordVPN from the App Store. Use our link to download NordVPN. Get started today to protect yourself.
Could be, yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be a stretch to say that, really. And but it's funny that they still kept the happily ever after, well, quote unquote happily ever after ending. So when Cinderella is with the prince, and then I think the closing dialogue of that was, "I think I'll go along with this for a while" or something. And so it makes me worried. Oh my God, she's marrying into the noble family. Oh my God, what is she gonna do the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that ending, honestly. I loved the whole idea of like I don't know, the vagueness of it, but the implications of what she might do.
For sure. There's one difference we can see with the series compared to your Disney movies and shows. Like most of the time, they're always happy endings, right? Whereas in this series, not everyone's getting a happy ending. There are some that are okay, like okay, things will work out, but then there's some that's like No, this was pretty dreadful and awful for that person. They shouldn't be around. And
Well, yeah,
know.
to be fair, the original Grimm's fairy tales were like that. They were very
They
dark.
were, yeah, they were dark, it's true. So that's the one contrast we can see. But again, I think with these creators, they took quite a bit of liberty of like changing what they can and make it their own.
Yeah, like I do like that they kept the dark tone of the original Grimm fairy tales. I respect that a lot.
What would have been fun to see is like them, I don't know, maybe the creator expanding the story a bit. Like we said, Cinderella is like, I'll do this with this family. I want to see how would the nobility like, I don't know, maybe would the nobility fall? Would she rise to be like the queen, like queen regent and stuff like that? I would have been interested to see that because that would be the director's take. It's a step away, sure, from the fairy tale itself, but I would have been slightly a little more invested in that. But once again, I'm content with how they ended that
Well,
episode,
if they ever do a season 2, hopefully they'll continue that storyline then,
and
just for
hopefully we'll
you.
finish the series on time.
Yeah, I do think it has a lot of potential.
Yeah, yeah, and one of the tales that I often heard about in high school was always Red Riding Hood and the wolf, because we know what happens in the Grimm fairy tale. It's a little more explicit, but
Mm-hmm.
the adaptation in the Grimm Variation, now that's interesting.
Mhm.
It's literally I'm just watching. I'm like, what is this VR killer shit I'm
Yeah.
Yeah,
seeing? I did
pretty
question,
much
but
warping your reality with the eye, what's it called? The eye technology.
mhm.
It's crazy.
It had me
Pretty
wondering
much,
though.
pretty much it's like a futuristic kind of world we live in, but that
Yeah.
story is very interesting because it's pretty much like a reverse revenge kind of scenario.
Well, with the
Mm-hmm.
reverse revenge is the one thing, but when I look at the overall message of that episode, I wonder like it was the creator trying to say like in a sense that off often wolves are in sheep's clothing, and so be careful
Yeah,
of who you meet
maybe.
online, because this is like the all online world. This guy's getting a kick out of it. Like we see him like was it remove the mask of the girl, and before he even kills her, it shows what she truly looks like.
Well, he was just into like torturing and killing girls, but my takeaway from the message is like we're all wolves, pretty much. Like all of us have a wolf in us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think they're both pretty valid interpretations.
But it's unfortunate we didn't get to see like I would have been interested personally just to see like how does it go in the fairy tale that they open the wolf's stomach, they put rocks in it, then they close it back up or something. Or I
Why
forget.
would you want to see that?
Why? 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 Why?
I would have been interested to see what they did with him, because they show, yeah, they're cutting him up, blah blah
Okay.
blah, slash slash slash. But that's just boring.
He
I
probably
want to see
harvests his
more.
organs. Who knows?
Most likely, because what was it in that world, like where the wolf comes from, like this high society and stuff, you can't step out of a certain. You have to keep yourself in line of your desires and stuff. And the moment you step out of it, you fall into the abyss. And so Red Riding Hood just goes ahead and just nukes the guy.
You know, it's funny.
Mm.
This episode, if you think about it, if you take it out of this show and put it into Black Mirror, this would be an episode that kind of fits in that kind of genre of a show. It felt like a
Oh yeah,
very
you're
Black
right.
Mirror episode.
Yeah, it has the same dystopian vibe.
Yep, that dystopian future era kind of scenario. Like a lot of the times when these episodes, you just don't understand how the world got there. Like, how did the premise came to be like this? Just like
Mm-hmm.
with Red Riding Hood, why did the girl started doing this? What's the origin behind it? And same thing for Hansel and Gretel. Like, oh, what happened to that world? Why are the kids in space? And what's going on? Like, what's up with the parents? They're all robots too. Like, there's so much mystery surrounding them. It's just that you're only left with what they can fit in within like the 20 odd so minutes of the show to make a
Yeah.
compelling story.
That's what makes it interesting, though. There's limited amount of information you have to work with. You're sort of just forced to go along with it, and then form your own opinion. And once like it reaches the end.
Yeah, I do agree with that to some extent, but at the same time, I do wish like that they could do a little more world building and stuff. Like if each story had like 2 episodes, I feel like that would give us a little more room to truly invest ourselves in the story.
No, true. Like, yeah, at least a two-part episode would have done it for me. On all of them, I don't know. Maybe certain ones more than others, but it depends what
Yeah.
you liked, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like not all of them, but like definitely Hansel and Gretel. That we need some context here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, agreed.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around like what was it? I don't know the story that well. The one with the bar and the three girls who come into town. I don't know anything about where that's based off of, or what they're trying to combine with the Old West. And anyone got any takes on that?
Which episode is
What
that though?
episode was it?
Oh
Yeah,
God, I don't remember.
I think it's probably like the last few episodes. Is that what you're talking about?
somewhere in the last few for sure.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen all of the episodes of the series. I'm missing the last two. So I was hoping you guys could fill in the
Yeah,
gap.
me too.
So it just shows how uninteresting this series was. Because I'll be honest, like even though Hands on Gretel was my favorite episode, the rest of watching the show it just felt like a drag to me.
Oh, just great. This is gonna be a drag.
This is the kind of show that I would play on the background while doing something.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's not enough to get you invested, like I said.
Yeah.
Like it's like cool little ideas for stories and like short one shots, but like yeah, I totally understand that because I didn't complete the series either.
Well, it's all good. Okay, I remember now.
Good thing I'm not alone.
Okay, none of us really completed the series, but
But you have though. You're talking about that episode that we didn't see, so I'm like,
I
we're not
didn't
sure
see
what
the
you're referring
last
to.
one. But accordingly, it was the town musicians of Bremen.
Mhm.
Apparently, that's the story. I don't know anything about it, so I won't go into it since you guys don't seem to know much about it either. So I'll avoid that. But what about the the storyteller guy? Like
The
he
Elves and Shoemaker.
that's the
That
one
episode.
that was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, it has to be one of my favorites that I had watched because the rise to
Well, for
fame
me,
and
it
then
was
this
confusing
fall.
though.
It was tragic and it was great. That I just couldn't get enough
Yeah,
of
I
it.
see the tragedy, but at the same time, I'm like, it's kind of confusing because I'm just like, well, shit, what's really happening with him? Is he really writing the stories while he's like blacked out, or is it someone else that's writing it? And at the end, you kind of see like he's just an old man sitting at the bench, and I'm like, well, was he imagining all this the whole time? Like, it's weird, like weird ending
Yeah,
for me at least.
I almost got the impression that it was like him looking back on like what could have been in his life.
Maybe, yeah, he was like daydreaming.
Yeah, like reminiscing and kind of going over what he missed out on, which is really
And what,
sad.
and the little girl that comes to him, like, what was she supposed to represent though? Is that
I would think like his youth.
I don't know, because she kept beating him up, kind of with her words, and now like kind of a shitty author he is maybe, and the potential he had, where he I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's like he's looking back and seeing his youth, and it's something he wasted. He had so much potential, and he didn't actually pursue anything with it. So now it's coming to beat him up in the future and bite him in the ass.
Words hurt,
Oh
At
man.
least,
You're your worst critic, as the saying goes.
yeah. Well, I mean, he hadn't written so much since in 20 years, as he said, and
Well,
you know, so, a part of me also felt like he was kind of on edge because he always had like impulsive thoughts, no? Like he almost wanted to like kill like the neighbor or something while he was in his apartment.
that's true too, yeah.
and he
But
wanted.
he has this writing dilemma too, where like the stuff that he's actively writing while he's conscious, he finds it interesting, he finds it compelling, but everybody does not. But then when he's kind of like blacked out or secluded and then starts writing all of a sudden, that's when people are like, "Ooh, this is good stuff. We like this. We want more of this." And he's like, "The hell? I don't even like this as much."
I think that's also like it's a really good one. That's probably my favorite episode because it also
Okay.
represents not only like a possible interpretation of like missed out youth and potential, but just like how success is not always how we want it to be, if that makes sense.
For
Like there's
sure.
so many celebrities out there who have gotten so incredibly famous off of something that they did not want to get famous off of. Like, this reminds me of the, I think his name was Janie Lane. Anyway, he's like a hair metal rock star. Trust me, this does have context. And he, like, made this album, right, of all these songs, and he was gonna make it his magnum opus. And it was, like, all these deep stories about his life experiences and everything, and that's what he was gonna market it as. But he needed a filler song. I think he was missing, like, one of them, so his producer said, like, "Oh, just, like, write a song quickly, and we'll throw it in there last minute. It doesn't need to be too deep." And that song that he wrote was Cherry Pie. And that is the song that got him famous and the song everyone remembers him by, and no one remembers any of the other songs on that album, which he put so much work into. But this one song that he wrote in 10 minutes on a pizza box is what he's known for and his legacy.
Ooh,
Interesting.
that's rough.
That's rough, buddy.
That felt like the episode took inspiration from that real life scenario then.
Well, yeah, kind of, because it's like, yeah, he got the fame and everything that he wanted, but it wasn't for the reasons he wanted, and at what
Yeah.
cost, really. I think he, like, even attempted to, like, off himself at one point because he got so depressed.
Probably because he
Because-
never thought that song. Well, for that scenario, he probably never thought that song was the one that will make his destiny. Whereas, like you said, the other songs he worked on, where he put his passion and blood, sweat, and tears, all that.
Well, yeah, like, imagine how rough that
didn't
would
fall
be.
through. Yeah.
I mean, I'd be pretty upset too. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a pretty close parallel to what happened in
Comparison.
that episode.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hammy, I totally agree with you. And as we progress through that particular episode, no one's really bringing up the past works he's really done. They're just like, when are you going to release something new? No one's like being, I guess, sentimental about the stuff he had written before. And he's sort of like
Mhm.
going along with it. And there's like, well, maybe it wasn't very evident, but I was suspecting there would eventually be a burnout from all that, like the quick rise to fame and all that. Like it's coming and everything, but he's not doing it because he enjoys it. He's doing it because at that point he has to. So the separation between your passion and the need to do something becomes very far gaped, if I had to say.
Well, yeah, and it's especially sad when it's what you're passionate about that becomes such a chore.
Yeah.
Because people are forcing you to do it in a certain way.
Yep, and then when it all comes crumbling down, he's going back to his editors, and they're like, "Oh, we can't do this. We can't do this." And he goes back to rock bottom, and then the magic elf just appears, and next thing you know, he's an old man. So it's a real interesting way to like bring it back. For it started at the park, and it ended at the park.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it was at the park this whole time.
Yeah, maybe that's always
could be true.
that's another interpretation of it for sure.
Very true.
Yep. I think he probably had in his head that he was writing this story. What was it called? That story he was writing on? Suburb? No, called Suburb. You know the book that he kept giving to the script that he kept giving to the editor, and it was like, yeah, it's okay, it's nothing. That's probably the story he kept having in his head, and like it said that he hadn't written a book since 20 years, right? So I'm assuming for like 20 years he was just sitting on that bench just thinking about the next book he's gonna write.
What a waste of time.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to wonder what the name of that book was. Oh, it was.
I forget. It was like something with an S, suburban something. Oh, Stupor. It's
Thank
Stupor,
you.
right?
Yeah, that was Oceanside Stupor or something with Stupor in it.
Something with Stupor. Yeah, that was like the only. I'm like, what's that word? I'm like, oh, Stupor.
I don't remember either what it was called, unfortunately.
But it was your favorite episode.
You got me now. You got me now. You got me red-handed. You got me red-handed.
It's been a while, my guy. It's been a while.
Yeah. Honestly, that episode's kind of forgettable for me. So that's why I'm like, yeah, it's my least favorite episode. If I had to rank my episode, it'd be Hansel and Gretel first, then Cinderella, then Little Red Riding Hood, then Elves and Shoemaker, and then the other two, of course, I never saw, so can't rank those.
What about you,
Yeah.
Hammy? What's the ranking?
Well, out of the ones I saw, I would say number one is the Elves and the Shoemaker remake for all the reasons that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Also for number two, probably I want to say Cinderella, just because I really liked how it was executed. Third place, I think Hansel and Gretel, and fourth place was the Red Riding Hood.
Okay. I see that. Now, Hammy, since you've done cosplay in the past and stuff, I was wondering about the Cinderella episode specifically. What did you think of Cinderella's dress? Like, I know how notorious Cinderella is for the white dress and everything, but if I recall, this Cinderella's dress was red. It wasn't white.
It was not. You're
Yeah,
right.
it was red. And I mean, I think that's really interesting too, because red is associated with like evil a lot of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I know it's a
Okay.
very like basic like interpretation, but I feel like given the scenario, it was pretty fitting to put her in that color.
Yeah, and so I had to say that because that was one of the biggest changes I noticed, and she didn't leave a shoe behind this time, and so some tropes were
No,
taken out.
she left like the jewelry thing, no, on her hair. What was
Oh,
it called?
right,
The
the
hairpin or something
the
like that?
hairpin instead.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought
Yeah.
the whole thing was not there, so
You know,
I
to
was
be
a
honest,
little
that
confused.
hairpin was the MacGuffin throughout the entire episode. Because remember, the server got accused of stealing
The
that,
beating that
and then
server
she
got, man,
has
the
it.
beating.
Yeah.
It reminds me of
But you know, there's
Creed
one thing I
almost.
don't understand. The twins, right? Getting tortured and mentally abused by what's her name? Kyoko, that's her name, right? Lady Kyoko.
Mm-hmm.
She's Cinderella.
Mhm.
They're getting abused by her, and I'm like, all they want to do is just escape and leave. And I'm like, well, you could just do that. Just take your mother and literally just walk out of the house. What's gonna happen? What's Kyoko gonna do? Kill you? Maybe. I don't know. But she don't. It doesn't look like she wants to kill you because she wants to play with you guys.
That's true.
Mhm.
It's always easy. Like
They literally could just walked away at any point. I'm like, it's so dumb.
I mean, that's
Well, it's
always.
easy.
Actually, no, Hammy, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
No, I was just gonna say it's easy to say that, but when you're like mentally abused to that extent, a lot of the time people don't realize that they can just walk away. It's called learned helplessness.
Maybe, yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
actual
At
psychological
one point,
phenomenon.
you just no, but that's it. At one point, you're just not thinking rationally.
Yeah, like at one point, even though there's so many things that you could do to help yourself, you're just like, oh, why bother? Or you just don't bother.
And then they were let out, but only because Kyoko got bored of them. It's like, all right, you guys can go. Yeah, I'm done with you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. So wait, so that's only around 4 episodes. Yeah, okay, we've only really seen 4 or maybe 5. So okay, so the mystery of 5 and 6 will just have to remain a mystery until somebody else watches it
Mm,
and I don't know
yeah.
goes from there.
I'll say this for our audience, if they are really interested in the Grimm Fairy Tales and they want to see this anime version of it, I'd say yeah, go watch up onto episode 3 and 4, and then I don't know if it gets any interesting because the other episodes they're based on the Grimm Fairy Tales for sure, but it's not one that we know of,
Yeah,
because we never read or watched other versions like Disney versions of them, so that's why it's like,
I
is
don't
it
know
worth it?
anything
I
about
don't know.
5, so I can't
Yeah,
really say.
yeah.
But if
But I will definitely say it is a drag on watching this show, so take that as a grain of salt.
it's a slow burn. It's a slow burn for sure. But I'd say if someone has a passion for the Grimm fairy tales, like go ahead and check it out because this is the Grimm
Yeah.
variation. So don't expect it to be the one-to-one adaptation as we would have liked it to be. There's going to be changes, and a lot of people might not like it. They might not agree with it. They might. So it's really back and forth. So
Yeah.
explore it at your own what is it?
Discretion, I guess.
Thank you. Yes. But what about you, Hammy? So far, we're here and there about it.
Yeah, like there's some episodes I liked better than others. So I'm like kind of on the fence. I can't really give it a definitive rating. I do also acknowledge my bias because I love the original Grimm's fairy tales, and I was really hoping to see an adaptation of them directly. So I realize I might be a little biased in that sense, but regardless, I do still respect it as its own piece of work. And I appreciate that it's like inspired by such iconic source material. So I think the audience should check it out if it sounds interesting to them from what we've discussed.
Yeah, and the fact that like a studio like which studio was behind it, I'm actually happy because the art quality was pretty consistent throughout each episode. As far as I got, I didn't see
Oh yeah, the
a dip
animation
in
was
quality.
beautiful
Yeah, yeah,
for
Yeah,
sure.
like lots of love was put in it, clearly.
yeah. But when sometimes you know how you get like a botched anime with bad quality, then it's like, yeah, no, just don't even waste your time. But this one, even though we're here and there, as long as the art stayed consistent and the workers weren't overworked, it actually turned out pretty good.
Hmm.
That's just what I think, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we'll cut it there unless anyone has any other comments before we wrap up.
Nope.
That sums it up pretty much.
All right, all right. So yeah, guys, you heard it here. Yeah. So be sure to check out the official Otaku Crew at the following social media handles. You got Instagram, Think Otaku Crew, the Facebook page, the official Otaku Crew, the Twitch channel, the official Otaku Crew, the TikTok channel, the official Otaku Crew, and the Discord squad. My name is Leifong, guys. We'll see you all next time. Peace out.
Take care.